रात को ट्रैवल करता था टू सेव कॉस्ट ऑन होटल्स। दिन में कहीं ना कहीं मैं भटक रहा होता था किसी एनजीओ वालों के साथ में।
The expectation from society is that I will earn a lot of money. And then if I go back to my family and say, "Ki, nahi, I don't want to do job, I want to do a startup," and that too in a like a social sector, I would get some eyebrows
As
raised.
well to actually leave something that you have already started and seen grow and then starting something new again.
वो मेघालय के इंटीरियर विलेजेस के अंदर जाके वहां पे उनके साथ में एंटरप्रेन्योरल एक्टिविटीज के ऊपर डिस्कस करना, अगेन इट वाज अ वेरी फुलफिलिंग एक्सपीरियंस।
Hi everyone, welcome to the third episode of the IIM Talks podcast. Today we are proud to present Gaurav Gupta from IIT Indore's class of 2016, Department of Mechanical Engineering. Gaurav is a serial entrepreneur who is currently working as a project manager at Tata STRIVE, which is a skill development arm of Tata Trust. In his role, he has helped nurture over 700 startup founders in the last few years. He has also been a Mahatma Gandhi National Fellow, cohort of 22, at IIM Bangalore, which is also a flagship program with Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Gaurav started his startup journey with Swaaha, which is a resource management enterprise, along with two other IIT Indore alums, Jwalan Shah and Rohit. This startup aimed at providing professional waste management services and solutions. Later, after this stint, he has also founded the Vivekanand Youth Initiative, which focused on youth development through sustainable solutions. So, and Gaurav has been someone who a lot of us juniors looked up to as the person to discuss any startup ideas with, or if you want to work in the impact space, you should get in touch with him. This is what everybody in my senior batch told me and told us. So, with great amount of pleasure and joy, I and Nimit welcome Gaurav you to our podcast.
Thank you so much।
Happy to have you, Gaurav.
Happy to see that kind of initiative has been coming up, very nice to see that।
Yeah, so just to start things off and to just break the ice and talk a little bit of your early life, I would like to kickstart this episode by asking you about your one of the most earliest decisions that you made of switching your undergrad degree from Pune Institute of Computer Science, where you were doing computer science engineering, to mechanical engineering at IIT Indore. So, what were the behind the scenes of this decisions and how that came to be?
um, I'll be very honest with you. So uh, this particular transition of going from PICT का CSE to IIT Indore का mechanical engineering, when I look in hindsight, I do believe कि बहुत ज़्यादा difference हुआ नहीं होता। अगर मैं वहाँ से भी अगर graduate हुआ होता और यहाँ पे IIT इंदौर से भी अगर graduate हुआ होता तो बहुत ज़्यादा difference life में हुआ नहीं होता, because ultimately मुझे एक थोड़ा development sector का कीड़ा हमेशा से रहा है। So I would have been doing some or other social impact वाला work or something like that. One thing I truly believe that changed, with PICT and IIT, apart from the IIT ka tag, कि uh, IIT Indore gave me a thought process of looking beyond just the technical domain and horizon. When I was in PICT, that kind of uh, एक एनवायरनमेंट जो होना चाहिए विद रिगार्ड्स टू अदर सॉर्ट ऑफ एंड डोमेन्स, जो यानी कि हमारे यहाँ पे ह्यूमैनिटीज का भी सेक्टर एक सॉर्ट ऑफ स्कूल है, ह्यूमैनिटीज,
Right.
स्कूल ऑफ ह्यूमैनिटीज। देयर इज अ डिपार्टमेंट फॉर एस्ट्रोफिजिक्स, देयर वाज डिपार्टमेंट फॉर फिजिक्स, केमिस्ट्री, हर चीज का एक अलग डिपार्टमेंट हम लोगों के पास में था। सो दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग वाज नॉट देयर इन PICT, so I believe that inter domain sort of an interaction that was possible in IIT was very helpful. uh, you just mentioned कि what was the earliest memory that I had with regards to IIT Indore. So I do recall one particular
Mm-hmm.
statement given by our director that time during our orientation, and that has sort of stuck with me throughout my life till date. He said that द मोमेंट यू एंटर इनटू आईआईटी, जिस दिन तुमने आईआईटी में अपना पहला कदम रखा है, यू बिकेम आईआईटीएन. नाउ आफ्टर 4 years दैट शुड नॉट बी योर ओनली अचीवमेंट कि तुम आईआईटीएन बन के बाहर निकले. आईआईटीएन तुम आज पहले दिन बन चुके हो. Now go beyond that. Use these 4 years to become something more than just an IITian. And that is something I always try to tell all the juniors कि go beyond एक IIT का tag and become something I mean if I were to just bluntly say become a good human सबसे पहले, and become a better version of yourself in those 4 years.
Yeah, and talking about the switch, one of the things we noticed while we were doing a little bit of research on you was how just from the start you were involved in a lot of different activities, like be it Fluxus, MUN at IIT Indore, and other organizations and clubs within IIT Indore. So, was there something that you saw in PICT that you wanted to continue here, of having that exposure to different clubs and organizations? What was your thesis behind just jumping straight into like a lot of different clubs and exploring different things?
I mean, in terms of getting some level of boost, because first year engineering subjects are almost common for each and every branch and across the colleges as well. Like IIT and
Yeah.
PICT, the subjects were more or less very common. So I pretty much had a very good hang of what all syllabus is going to come during the exam. So completing first year at PICT sort of helped in getting more time at my hand to spend across other activities during the first year itself, because academics was fairly taken care of.
Right.
So my pointer during the first year was at least very good, and that ways I mean even for the uh, some subjects like engineering drawing. So मेरा हाथ अच्छे से पहले ही बैठा हुआ था.
Mhm.
So, to have those,
Uh-huh.
softer lines, you to have that kind of precision in terms of, making those arcs and everything. So I had good practice pehle se. So that sort of gave me a lot of time at my hand to, sort of explore other things. And वो मैं थोड़ा दिमाग में मन बना के चुका था, मतलब कि I will be going beyond just the academics. वो मैं already I had made up my mind. So as I was mentioning, कि E-Cell has been like the first thing that I got into, and that was because uh, as entrepreneurship जो एक था एक domain, it always used to excite me a lot in terms of कि people should be more job providers than the job seekers. So it always excited me as a field. And entrepreneurship cell जब बन रहा था तब it was mostly the final year student and us the first year students who were part of that founding member wala team. So my first group of very good friends were from all from final year. So that ways, I mean, for that matter, I'm still connected with them. आज भी I am in still good connection with them. They are,
Wow.
sort of on their own enterprise level journey and everything. And they were the first batch student because when were in the first year, we were the fourth batch. So obviously the final year student were the first batch student. And to get a perspective of कि first batch वाले बच्चों का क्या एक experience रहा होगा when they came to a college which didn't even exist before they were there. The whole and sole
Yeah.
reason that the college came into existence because they took an admission. So that ways it was very exciting to
Yeah.
learn from their experiences and how the college was evolving through the entire initial developing wala stage. So it was really fun to know them.
I think this was the year also when eCell actually came into existence, right? And me and Shubh actually were part of eCell starting, I think, 2017. Why did you guys end up starting eCell? Did you see that kind of missing piece within the IIT Indore system?
Yeah.
And like, what was the
And
backstory
also
of like
to
founding eCell?
Uh, Fortunately for me, I was able to crack that entrance exam. I became a product of the big quota factory. It gave me some direction. That some direction led me into PICT and then finally IIT. So it just happened over the period of time, and
Right.
uh, at that particular moment, it just felt very right कि यार हाँ यार entrepreneurship को pursue करना चाहिए. So it was very strong gut feeling from inside. And when this particular mail came from the final year student, I believe they were actually kind of feeling कि यार इतना टाइम क्यों लग गया ये सेल शुरू करने के अंदर, ये तो कब का शुरू कर लेना चाहिए था हमने.
Hmm.
Because
uh,
entrepreneurship cell as a concept existed much before
right.
that. All the big IITs before us had some level of entrepreneurial activity. आई बिलीव कि जब वो फाइनल ईयर में आए तब उनको थोड़ा बल्ब चमका कि भाई अपने को इसके बाद में कॉलेज के बाहर जाना है, अब क्या करेंगे. So there should be some level of option with regards to self-employment also. Let's do something about it. So maybe because of that, but it was really fun to sort of have their expertise coming in, because they already had very good network of friends across all the old IITs, and unke jitne bhi learnings the we were able to incorporate and get a booster ki in terms of what all mistakes other ECL had done, we could learn from that and sort of create an overall structure which was much better, much more efficient, and had a very strong foundation from the day zero. So that was really good.
Now, talking about one of the possibly one of the most interesting phases of your undergrad journey, Swaaha, which you co-founded along with Jwalint and Rohit. We both are really curious, and I think audience as well, on the initial story of Swaha. How did you guys meet? Because I think none of you belong to the same batch. You are from different batches. I think at least you were from a different batch
Right.
than Jwalant. And how did you guys meet, and how did that initial spark of starting something in this space of waste management came to be?
I do believe that उसका credit भी Fluxus को जाता है, because when we were in first year, we were like the ground worker, वो एकदम बिल्कुल वो सतरंजी बिछाने वाला कार्यकर्ता जो होता है ना,
Yeah.
we were that people during the first year, and sort of had very good rapport with the third year, because when we were in first year, the third year वाले पूरे organizing committee के सारे members थे. At that point of time, there were three overall coordinators, Jwalant, Rohit, and Arpit. ये तीनों overall coordinators थे. So Jwalant
Okay.
and Rohit were my two co-founders for Swaaha. So we had that kind of
Okay.
rapport because of Fluxus. उसके वजह से we knew each other, we sort of understood each other's थोड़ा weaknesses, strength areas, and everything. And when I was sort of nearing final year, so I wanted to do something on the social sector वाला line. There are two filmy moments of my life. Again, one was with my dad itself कि जब मैं final year के दिवाली में घर पे गया, he asked me the question of life कि what do you want to do, and I thought for a moment and I told him कि मुझे कुछ ऐसा काम करना है जिसमें सोशल वेलफेयर हो, किसी से सोसाइटी का कुछ इम्पैक्ट हो. I do believe कि he was not expecting that kind of answer. So he thought for a moment and told me कि you don't have to worry about my survival, you just take care of your own, we are good with it. So sort of he gave up on me, or sort of he was okay with my overall decision कि हाँ अब ये कुछ तो डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर वाला कुछ तो काम करने वाला है. And the second moment happened right after when I came back to home after finishing my final year का final semester का exam. I came back, I was just looking into some things कि मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर में, because again दुनिया में जैसे 4 करोड़ लड़कियां हैं, बट आप शादी किसी एक से करोगे तो 4 करोड़ नहीं, 400 करोड़ जो है, मतलब यानी कि लड़कियां हैं तो किसी एक से शादी करोगे तो आप 400 करोड़ प्रॉब्लम भी है. डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर में किसी एक प्रॉब्लम पे ही सॉल्व कर सकते हो, यू कैन नॉट
Yeah.
सॉल्व ईच एंड एवरी प्रॉब्लम ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. So what problem exactly I would want to work upon? So I was thinking on those lines. On the same time, Jwalant and Rohit were also thinking of कि भाई खुद का कुछ start करना है. And this is when my father told me if you want to do something for the society, gain perspective in life. And for him personally, traveling helped a lot. So he said कि मेरे लिए traveling काम करता है, so you also try hand at traveling. तू घूम, तेरे को जितना घूमना है, and gain perspective in life. बिल्कुल वो जा सिमरन जा वाला moment था एकदम बिल्कुल मेरे life का. And that is when I roamed a lot. I understood
Wow.
different NGOs, the way they operate. So this particular phase of my life, it was very sort of a gypsy sort of a phase, जहाँ पे मैं रात को ट्रैवल करता था to save cost on hotels. दिन में कहीं ना कहीं मैं भटक रहा होता था किसी NGO वालों के साथ में. I used to understand the entire model, what they are doing, how they are doing. And this is where I picked up smaller items for Swaha at large. कि एक पर्टिकुलर इफ आई वर टू गिव एन एग्जांपल, एक गढ़चिरौली में एक एनजीओ है सर्च नाम से. तो सर्च ने वहां पे
Okay.
एम्बुलेंसेस के थ्रू एक मिनी हॉस्पिटल पूरा तैयार करके उसको ट्राइबल विलेजेस के अंदर हर जगह पे वो घुमाते थे. सो दैट सॉर्ट ऑफ गेव मी एन आइडिया कि एक हम लोग डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड वे में वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट को हर जगह पे कैसे लेके जा सकते हैं. So that was the entire concept behind
Hmm.
decentralizing the entire waste management का system. So that was one of the part wherein उनका लोगों का मॉडल लेके हम लोगों के मॉडल्स के अंदर कैसे फिट करना. And somewhere down the line when I was pretty much convinced कि waste management is the problem that I would like to work upon right now, because a lot of people said कि अगर आपको डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर में काम करना है तो यू नीड टू फाइंड योर पैशन, और पैशन वहां से मिलता है जहां पे आपको प्रॉब्लम बहुत पिंच करेगा. So I thought, यार, this is a problem which is pinching me
Right.
the most and I would like to work upon it. एंड फिर वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के अलग अलग मॉडल्स कहाँ कहाँ पे है उसको जा जाके समझना. आई fondly recall going to Mysore to learn their business का the entire waste management का model. एंड मैं जहाँ पे उतरा वहाँ पे ही सामने देयर वाज दिस सरदार जी हु वाज ड्राइविंग द एंटायर वेस्ट का ट्रक. तो इट वाज आल्सो क्वाइट फैसिनेटिंग कि मैसूर में एक सरदार जी
Okay.
वहाँ पे ट्रक चला रहे वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट वाला. आई वेंट टू हिम, आई आस्क्ड हिम कि यहाँ का वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट कैसे होता है,
Yeah.
तो उन्होंने मुझे ट्रक में बैठा लिया. तो माय फर्स्ट इंटर्नशिप सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम दैट पर्टिकुलर ट्रक इन मैसूर, कि जहाँ पे उन्होंने मुझे पूरा वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट का मॉडल क्या है विद
Wow.
रिगार्ड्स टू सेग्रीगेशन ऑफ वेस्ट, विद रिगार्ड्स टू पुटिंग अ बिहेवियरल चेंज इन प्लेस, कि लोगों को कैसे यानी कि अवेयर करना है कि विच एक्चुअली टर्न्स इनटू सम एक्शनेबल आइटम. क्योंकि यू कैन गो अराउंड पुटिंग बोर्ड्स की ये वेट वेस्ट है, ये ड्राई वेस्ट है, बट हाउ डज इट एक्चुअली कन्वर्ट इनटू एक्शन एंड बिहेवियरल चेंज फॉर पीपल. वो तभी होता है जब आपने ऑन ग्राउंड हाथ अपने जो
Right.
है उसके अंदर डाले हो और कुछ करा हो. सो दोज वेर द इनिशियल लेसन्स फॉर अस. आई ऑल्सो रिकॉल कि जब हम लोग फर्स्ट टाइम आईआईटी इंदौर में वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट एक्चुअली सब शुरू करे थे, तो वी हैड ओनली जस्ट टू व्हीलर्स, बिकॉज स्टूडेंट लाइफ के अंदर उतना ही अफोर्ड कर पा रहे थे. वी डिडंट इवन हैव अ कचरे का ट्रक और समथिंग लाइक दैट. तो रोहित भैया वॉज ड्राइविंग द टू व्हीलर, मैं पीछे उल्टा बैठा हुआ था, मेरे हाथ में उसको टेडी बियर जितना बड़ा एक कचरे का बैग था उसको पकड़ के, बिकॉज वी वांटेड टू स्टार्ट समवेयर. अब कहीं ना कहीं शुरू करना है, तो उसको कचरे के बैग को इतना बड़ा सा बैग लेके हम लोग बैठे हुए. सो दोज वेर द डेज एंड आई मीन वी स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम देयर. आई was there with Swaaha till say somewhere around middle of 2018. तब तक कि we were focusing mostly on how do we decentralize the entire concept of waste management and all. And then I sort of took a back seat and thought कि मुझे अब कुछ और चीज़ के ऊपर काम करना चाहिए, and finally shifted into other youth development and everything that you spoke about.
I mean, in general as well, it feels like a very unconventional kind of approach that you took. And was this traveling which you did after the undergrad, or was it in between somewhere?
I sort of started in the final year itself. मतलब फाइनल ईयर के अंदर जब आई वॉज प्रिटी मच श्योर कि अटेंडेंस वाइज मेरे को जो 5 नंबर मिलने वाले वो तो मिलने नहीं वाले हैं. सो वो तो पता चल गया था मुझे. तो तब आई स्टार्टेड ट्रैवलिंग अ लॉट, एंड टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट I got a lot of support from all the faculties and everyone. And because, this traveling wise, they would also sort of come and give some or other, inputs ki ye try kar sakte ho, ye pata kar sakte ho. And it was very
Yeah.
encouraging to have that kind of support coming in from faculty, especially, and everyone.
Talked about, I think you also talked about support from your father in terms of how he did not pull you back from exploring, let's say, traveling or trying to go into a domain where usually there's not a lot of money starting up. So it must have been some sort of freedom that you experienced even from your family side that let you take that leap of faith. So I'm sure like a lot of faculties would have supported, but to build that mindset, maybe support from your family was really important because if I'm a student and if I'm going to an IIT, the expectation from society is that I will earn a lot of money. And then if I go back to my family and say, "Ki, nahi, I don't want to do job, I want to do a startup, and that too in a like a social sector, I would get some eyebrows raised. So do you
हाँ,
think your family
आई
was
आईब्रोज
really
मैंने बहुत
supportive
रेस
and
करवाया,
that
बिकॉज
helped?
माय फर्स्ट काम वाज इटसेल्फ इन वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट. तो कमिंग फ्रॉम अ बनिया सॉर्ट ऑफ अ फैमिली, उनके दिमाग में था कि यार ये क्या कचरे का काम कर रहा है. So that was the first reaction coming from
Mm.
their side. Uh, I believe I have spoken about this earlier as well once. कि my first salary was 20,000 rupees when I was working with Swaaha. हम लोग अपने आप को उतना ही salary afford कर पा रहे थे. But even when I was earning at
Right.
20,000 rupees per month, एक statistical mindset जो दिमाग में बैठ गया था कि आज 20,000 रुपये महीना है, 20,000 रुपये महीने से कम कमाने वाले एटलीस्ट 60% पॉपुलेशन है इस देश में. सो हाउ कैन आई
Yeah.
कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट टूवर्ड्स मेकिंग देयर लाइव्स बेटर. तो माइंडसेट तब भी वही था, to sort of work towards people. I also give a little bit of credit to uh, one of the talks that was organized at IIT Indore. This was founder of Gunj. I believe you might have heard the name of Gunj Foundation. इनके founder है अंशु गुप्ता. He is a Magsaysay
Hmm.
awardee, and he came to our institute. He delivered this particular talk, and at the end of it he said he think about what you really want to do in life in terms of making others lives better. तो ऐसे ही जाते जाते
Wow.
आई टोल्ड हिम कि माय ड्रीम इज टू bring 1 million people out of poverty, and this was not
Wow.
pre planned or in a way उसके पहले कभी से सोच के रखा था or anything like that. It just happened, so that goal has stayed with me so far when I work towards developing entrepreneurs right now, or uplifting uh, lives of the marginalized through Tata Trust and Tata Strive. So that has sort of stayed with me as a personal goal for life. And I mean, if it was
Right.
not for that one particular lecture, वो एक गेस्ट लेक्चर अगर नहीं ऑर्गेनाइज होता तो शायद वो कभी लाइफ में एम मैंने आया आया भी नहीं होता. आई फील वेरी गुड अबाउट इट.
Wow.
एंड टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, आईआईटी में इतने सारे गेस्ट लेक्चर होते हैं, एंड कोई पर्टिकुलर एक आधा कोई ही होता है जो हम लोग अटेंड करते हैं. मतलब वी सॉर्ट ऑफ ट्राई टू अवॉइड समटाइम्स.
Yeah, I mean the whole story is pretty inspiring. Starting from just traveling and then exploring this problem, then actually starting working on it. And recently, I was reading how Swaaha has processed around like 5 million kg plus kind of waste and also holds record. So that's like a very inspiring journey for both of us, and I'm sure for audience as well. And I think around 2018 was the time when you decided to make a change and have that decision of leaving Swaha and actually being founder of Vivekanand Youth Initiative. So how did this switch came about? And I think also it's a very critical decision, and it might be a difficult decision as well to actually leave something that you have already started and seen grow and then starting something new again.
Yeah, I mean, see, leaving a startup and breaking up with a girlfriend is pretty much similar. तो आपका जो एक्स स्टार्टअप है और आपकी जो एक्स गर्लफ्रेंड है वो क्वाइट सिमिलरली ही आपको यानी कि ट्रीट करेगी इवेंचुअली. सो इट वाज ऑब्वियसली अ वेरी टफ डिसीजन टू टेक, बट आई डू बिलीव कि इन द लॉन्ग रन इट came out very beautifully for me. When I went back to my hometown, I wanted to work upon rural development, and rural development में काम करने के लिए मेरे को easiest तरीका दिखा कि मैं youth के साथ काम करूं. And to work with youth, again the easiest way I thought कि skill development करना चाहिए, because that is where they eventually take care of their livelihood. If I were to say in terms of the global scenario as well, आज दुनिया का सबसे opportune country अगर कोई है तो that is India. For India, the biggest problem right now is unemployment. And with regards to the biggest problem, the best possible solution is entrepreneurship. So I was looking for that particular sweet spot where I go where I'm needed rather than what gives me the best
Hmm.
yield. So जब मैंने सोचा कि मतलब आई वांट टू वर्क ऑन स्किल डेवलपमेंट एंड पर्टिकुलरली ऑन विद रिगार्ड्स टू एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप. So that is when I started Vivekanand Youth Initiative. It had very simple funda. It was to go to the panchayats, do a capacity building program for them. उनके पास में जो एग्जिस्टिंग फंड्स वगैरह है उससे एक डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड वे के अंदर उनको कैसा स्किल डेवलपमेंट हम लोग प्रोवाइड कर सकें. So it was very simple concept to democratize the entire process of skill development and provide the power into their own hands for their own skilling. And with power obviously comes the responsibility that they take the entire responsibility of skilling themselves in their own hands. So it was a matlab,
Okay.
at the core of it, it was a very Gandhian way of thinking and providing a swaraj in terms of कि people take the onus of the entire process of skilling in their own hands. uh, if if we were to be truly independent, then our
Hmm.
villages have to be independent first. So that was the entire thought behind it, and so far it has come out very beautifully. We have reached out to more than 12 panchayats right now, and ये 12 panchayat जो है, they have sort of taken up
Wow.
the responsibility of skilling their own youth in their own hand, diverted their funds towards skill development. क्योंकि आई एम नॉट सो श्योर कितने अभी जो ये सुनने वालों को पता होगा हमारे कॉलेज की खास करके जनता की, देर इज अ ग्राम पंचायत डेवलपमेंट प्लान एज वेल। तो ग्राम पंचायत के पास में खुद के पास में एक पैसे का फंड का एक पूल होता है विच दे कैन डाइवर्ट टू एनी गिवन थिंग दैट दे वांट टू डू। एंड मोस्टली हमारे जितने भी 7 लाख गांव है इस पूरे देश के अंदर, वो या तो उससे स्ट्रीट लाइट बनाते हैं, या तो उससे नाली बनाते हैं, या फिर उससे फुटपाथ बनाते हैं। सो वी सॉर्ट ऑफ
Okay.
वेंट एंड सेड कि नहीं, ये 3 चीज छोड़ के वहां पे उस पर्टिकुलर लिस्ट में 26 और आइटम है जिसके ऊपर आप खर्चा कर सकते हो। एंड दोज 26 आइटम्स में से एक आइटम है स्किल डेवलपमेंट। डाइवर्ट योर फंड टूवर्ड स्किल डेवलपमेंट एंड ensure that your youth is skilled in a way where you get the best out of it for your own villages. That was the simple funda we wanted to explore, and
Right.
that ways uh, जो 12 विलेजेस हम लोग यानी कि कवर किए, द खास करके द सरपंच वेर वेरी हैप्पी अबाउट इट बिकॉज they've had something to show which no other sarpanch in their area had to show. So they were very happy
Right.
about it.
I'm sure. And talking about both of your stories, I think this is very different from a typical path that people take. Like you enter a technology institute, you want to get the best computer science jobs out there, but your stories have been pretty much around how can you actually create an impact where the most of India is. I would say the bubble that we live in of doing corporate jobs, that is a very small section of our country, and a majority of people, let's say, who are in these villages who don't even have access to these information, and working for them, I think it's God's work, if you have to say it that way. But these are very inspiring stories, and I hope maybe there are some ways that we other alums or current students from the college can help you or join you in some or the other way, whatever they can, and we continue this legacy because this is very helpful and very interesting.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, if I
And
were to give two sets of advice right now for the juniors who are listening this, the first advice would be, even if you are to choose a corporate life, do get some level of rural immersion during your graduation itself. आप 2 महीने का इंटर्नशिप करो किसी ऐसे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, किसी ऐसे एनजीओ के साथ में जो आपको सोसाइटी के प्रॉब्लम्स के साथ में एक इंट्रोडक्शन दे। इट कुड बी एनी एनजीओ ऑफ योर ओन चॉइस, इट कुड बी something that you would do at your individual level also. Just go live with the people and you will understand the
mm,
problems, and you will try to gauge a vision into what all things that you will be doing in future and how it impacts the society. So even if you are to take a corporate route, do have some level of immersion into society's ka problem. That is one thing. And if you are
right,
to consider taking development sector or social impact sector as a career choice, so I would rather suggest that you first have an immersion in terms of say a fellowship like I did, कि कुछ फेलोशिप वगैरह करो, या फिर travel like I did, go
right,
to the NGOs, work with them, try to understand their ecosystem. Or otherwise also, like one of the fellowship I did is called as Nirman. So this is again out of the same NGO based out of Gadchiroli. They have a very good model wherein you can explore
mm,
your interest areas and try to understand the why of it, कि आपको डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर में जाना क्यों है। बिकॉज वो समझने में ही काफी लोगों को ये समझ में आ जाता है कि उनके
right,
लिए वो डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर नहीं है। सो दैट फैंसीनेस ऑफ डेवलपमेंट सेक्टर ऑल्सो नीड्स टू गो अवे। यू रियली नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि इसके अंदर सच में बहुत हार्डशिप है। इट इज नॉट अ वेरी इजी लाइफ, इट इज फुल ऑफ वेरी डिफिकल्टीज, एंड फॉर दैट मैटर एक बेसिक थॉट आपके साथ में हमेशा रहना चाहिए कि ऑल दिस स्ट्रगल दैट यू आर डूइंग राइट नाउ is towards a larger goal in life, which might not give fruits at an individual level, but will work towards some societal level of benefit. So it is very fancy when you hear it. It is very interesting, very intriguing. But when it actually happens in life, it is very difficult, and it will actually drain you emotionally, physically, financially at multiple moments. So have to be ready for that.
Right. And on the similar lines, so you talked about public policy programs, and you pursued a similar program from IIM Bangalore, wherein you were also a MGNF fellow, which is Mahatma Gandhi National Fellow, which is of course a collaboration between IIM Bangalore and the Government of India. So how was this transitioning back to like an educational space again? And you talked about not just knowing the bookish knowledge about the policies, about the laws, but you also talked about the practical aspects. So, your 2 years at IIM Bangalore, how was that? Did you like it? Did you learn something very new which you weren't aware before? And how was your MGNF fellowship?
So this particular collaboration for Mahatma Gandhi National Fellowship was with IIM Bangalore and Ministry of Skill Development. I had some level of idea that I would like to work upon skill development only, and this entire
Mm,
fellowship program looked very lucrative because it had both component of public policy which I wanted to implement at village level through Vivekanand Youth Initiative, and obviously the skill development part of it,
right,
that how micro level skill development initiatives are taken up and how are they implemented, and what exactly is the larger ecosystem that India at large is looking at. साथ साथ में I was to learn about the entire skill development का
mm,
ecosystem. COVID was also happening around. COVID के बीच में everything is happening, and the portion where you mentioned कि to have a good balance between academics and the on-field experience. So that ways it was a very good experience in terms of giving the best of both worlds. आपको ground experience भी बहुत अच्छे से मिल रहा है, wherein
right,
you are directly reporting to the district का collector. So you sort of get a very good overview of the entire ecosystem in the district itself. So whenever we had to
mm,
go back to the IIM Bangalore ka campus, sort of discuss with them. So it was always on the lines of ki if a European level government was thinking of it, how they would do it in their own country. तो उस level का we were supposed to give a matching
right,
sort of a planning to the district level committee, and which was sort of implementable as well. क्योंकि आप प्लान कितना भी अच्छा बना लो, until and unless there is somebody who is going to work upon it, it is of no use. तो ऐसा प्लान बनाना जो
right,
एक्चुअली इम्प्लीमेंटेबल भी हो, बिकॉज अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम व्हाट हैपेंस इज कि वी यूजुअली टेंड टू बिलीव कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफिसेस के लोग जो है वो उतने एफिशिएंट नहीं होते या लेथार्जिक होते हैं, बट ऑन द कॉन्ट्ररी व्हाट आई हैव एक्चुअली सीन एंड फेल्ट इज कि दे आर ओवरवर्क्ड, अंडरस्टाफ्ड एंड वेरी फ्रस्ट्रेटेड. तो उस चीज के अंदर हाउ डू यू
mm,
इंट्रोड्यूस अ चेंज विच इज इजीली अडेप्टेबल, एक्सेप्टेबल एंड इम्प्लीमेंटेबल इज द रियल चैलेंज व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट पब्लिक पॉलिसी. जब तक आप एम्पथाइज नहीं करोगे उनके साथ में, उनके सिचुएशन के साथ में, नो सोल्यूशन इज गोइंग टू वर्क, हाउ गुड ऑफ अ सोल्यूशन इट इज. A good solution is the only one which is actually implementable.
right,
So this is something which I really learned through those entire 2 years. कि लोगों के पास जाओ, sit with them, empathize with them, understand what is possible, and just give them उतना ही. उससे ज्यादा देने की जरूरत नहीं है, उससे ज्यादा वो कर भी नहीं पाएंगे. And that is applicable at each and every level.
right,
वो कलेक्टर का लेवल हो या कलेक्टर के चपरासी का लेवल हो या किसी पंचायत का कोई लेवल हो या फिर एनी वन फॉर दैट मैटर इज कैपेबल ऑफ समथिंग. यू जस्ट गिव देम उतना ही, उससे ज्यादा नहीं.
right. I think जो आप insights शेयर कर रहे हो, these are gold mine of knowledge because ये आपको कोई भी बुक में नहीं मिलेगा. दिस इज व्हाट ऑन ग्राउंड आपको अपने हाथ डर्टी करने पड़ेंगे. यू हैव टू टॉक टू लेट्स से हंड्रेड्स ऑफ पीपल across the hierarchy and then wait and then you get to realize these things. Also एक और interesting चीज थी जैसे this particular fellowship that this was an intersection of both the domains that you wanted, public policy and skill development. And I didn't know IIM Bangalore had this beautiful program around public policy. So what I think is we do not really explore what we want to do and we just conform to कि society बोलती है engineering करो, फिर MBA करो, फिर job करो. But if you really have these ideas, I think there is always a way. As you had these ideas, you realized कि skill development is my forte, is my domain. So you had this program, you had these fellowships. So really for somebody junior, if you have these peculiar ideas, these interesting things, just start exploring, just talk to more and more people, as Gaurav Bhaiya said, because then only you'll get to realize ki kuch hai, like there's something that you can pursue.
वेरी
So
ट्रू, वेरी
really
ट्रू.
interesting work, and I hope I had done more on ground work like this, but of course, I'll connect with you and let's see what we can do.
You are
But
still in the academics wala phase. You still have some portion to explore. So maybe you can do it. Nemat, I
right,
believe, is also just transitioning out of the academics wala phase. So he also still has some portion to, sort of delve into some societal level of problem. It could be any problem. यार. To be very honest, it need not be rural or tribal problem. मतलब problem आपको आपके घर के बाहर ही मिल जाएगा. If you just are able to see.
Right.
right,
One thing I think was very interesting to me was how you said they had these 26 other things that they could spend their money on, but they were just spending on those three things. And it was just you going and telling them that, hey, you can do this as well. And once that gets done by one community or society, others just see that, and maybe that becomes more aware among the general audience. So I think what you said, as Shub was saying, is like gold mine of information from for anyone, and I think it's also an outlier kind of experience that you have compared to any other an average person who might be graduating out of any engineering college.
If there was a junior who is, sort of wanting to get into development sector or social impact wala sector, uh, I would suggest कि सबसे पहले find out what is pinching for you. मतलब जो मुझे बोला गया, I'll just sort of forward that message to each and everyone who's listening. Find out what is pinching you the most. कौन सी problem है जिसको आप सही में बहुत दिल से नफरत करते हो, and you would really want to work upon it. So that will give you the initial fuel or initial passion which will drive you towards it, and hopefully when you work towards it you will also gain a good balance in life in terms of making it financially sustainable for yourself as well.
right. And I think these thoughts that you're sharing, these are coming from your experience and your heart. So I think people who would be listening this will really appreciate the honesty and the true sort of information that you're providing. So really appreciate that. So let's now also talk about your current role at Tata Strive, which is a very empowering pillar of Tata right now. So how do you see that is creating an impact on entrepreneurs today? And let's say if there is someone who wants to start something, how would this program help, or how can they reach out to you or reach out to this program officially and get the help from?
Correct. So right now I have moved into the Tata Trust segment, which is the CSR arm of the Tata Group. Tata Group at large, उसका जो CSR arm है, that is Tata Trust. Tata Trust का जो skill development
Mm,
department है, that is Tata Strive. I work as project manager for entrepreneurship development at Tata Strive. So my core job is to provide the aspiring entrepreneurs with training. We also provide them with financial support, and finally provide them with an handholding or mentorship support. Ideally, the crowd that we are looking for is the marginalized crowd. For that matter,
right,
we have reached out to the tribal groups. We have had especially women batches. We have reached out to LGBT sort of community. We have reached out to cancer survivor patient, PWDs, and everything. So these are kind of crowd that we usually work with. uh, if somebody from say IIT Indore was to sort of take help, I would rather want to help them on a personal level rather than the programmatic level that we do at Tata Strive, because that is much more aligned to marginalized people only per se. Uh, so, uh, but that ways I would suggest ki do have an experience of how entrepreneurship evolves within the communities with us. So get a hang of it, get an understanding through, say, internship or something like that with Tata Stripe. That ways we will be able to sort of help you out with how exactly you are able to ideate for the society. क्योंकि इंडिया में entrepreneurship works very well when you are trying to solve a problem. So if you want to really find the problems, come work with us, because NGO
right,
वर्ल्ड से बेटर कोई तरीका नहीं है टू अंडरस्टैंड द प्रॉब्लम्स ऑफ द सोसाइटी. एंड वंस यू हैव सॉर्ट ऑफ गेट अ हैंग ऑफ अ गुड प्रॉब्लम, तो उसके अराउंड बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटी क्रिएट करना, एक बिजनेस प्लान बनाना, एंड बिकमिंग entrepreneur which is also helping in solving certain aspect or a pinching point for the society, that is actually something which will also excite you and keep you moving.
right, right. So I think this really helps the context that you talked about how the program works and if somebody is interested, I'm sure they would reach out to you. Also, another thing that I want to touch, and I think you would have a lot of good things there to talk about as well. So, through all of your different entrepreneurial experiences, I'm sure there were times that you really felt ecstatic, excited, and you were like, you weren't doing so much of impact, but that comes at a cost. And you must have felt low or rock bottom hit a lot of times throughout this journey. So, can you point out to some things that kept you going on in these tougher times? Was there like some specific thing, or how would you really make up yourself when things had gone south?
Very interesting that you asked this question because very recently I completed a full marathon. फुल मैराथन जब
Oh,
मैंने
wow.
कंप्लीट किया था 42 किलोमीटर पार्ट ऑफ इट देयर कम्स अ मोमेंट लाइक जब 30-32 किलोमीटर आप दौड़ चुके होते हो तब माइंड गेम्स शुरू होते हैं इट इज वेरी सिमिलर टू व्हाट अ सोशल एंटरप्राइज और एन एंटरप्रेन्योरल जर्नी इज लाइक so you start the mind games, you sort of have questions like कि why am I doing this, is this even worth it, तो वो सारे माइंड गेम्स तब शुरू होते हैं and what keeps you going in a marathon and what keeps you going in the entire scheme of things is to think about why you started it कि वो एम को सोचो कि why you were there in the first place. Are you going in the right direction for that? If yes, your answer is pretty much clear. You should keep going. There is also the flip side of it. You should also know when to stop because I'm not sure if you have heard of
Right,
the boiling frog experiment. बॉइलिंग फ्रॉग एक्सपेरिमेंट काफी सिंपल सा एक्सपेरिमेंट है कि आप एक बॉइलिंग वाटर में अगर फ्रॉग को डालो तो वो तुरंत उछल के बाहर आ जाएगा लेकिन आप ठंडे पानी में एक फ्रॉग को डालो और धीरे धीरे उसको गर्म करो द फ्रॉग विल कीप एडजस्टिंग टू द heat of water and eventually die in the hot water है ना तो that should also not happen with you so you need to take care of those aspects wherein you don't wear out yourself and know when to sort of jump out of the heating water तो वो दोनों बैलेंस रखना चाहिए कि आई वोंट से कि जस्ट कीप गोइंग फॉर द हेक ऑफ इट always have that kind of
right,
place where you can zoom out and look it from a third person perspective ki why I started it, is it going in the right direction as I had envisioned it in the first place, and is it sort of aligning with my values because जब मैं अपने फेलोशिप के ड्यूरेशन में था आई सॉर्ट ऑफ हैड दिस पर्टिकुलर थॉट इन माई माइंड कि इसके आगे इफ आई वांट टू वर्क विद अ कंपनी देन इट हैज टू बी टाटा बिकॉज वहां पे मेरे वैल्यूज मैच करते हैं. So for that matter, Tata STRIVE is the only company I have applied to in my entire life so far. तो मेरा सीवी
wow,
भी जो है वो सिर्फ पूरी दुनिया में दो लोगों ने ही देखा जिन दो लोगों ने मेरा इंटरव्यू लिया था आज तक. तो बट दैट इज बिकॉज आई हैड वेरी क्लियर माइंडसेट कि मेरे वैल्यूज टाटा ग्रुप के साथ में मैच कर जाएंगे. दैट इज अ प्लेस वेयर आई वुड बी एबल टू वर्क फ्रीली बिकॉज when it
right,
comes to trust, loyalty, and those ethics wala aspect, Tata Group is something that you can rely upon. एंड आई एम वेरी हैप्पी अबाउट दैट
right,
डिसीजन दैट आई हैव मेड सो फार कि टाटा ग्रुप के साथ में काम करना है एंड टू वर्क टूवर्ड्स एज आई एम earlier mentioned कि वर्किंग ऑन द easiest possible solution to the most biggest problem of country कि अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट पे अगर काम करना है तो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के साथ करना है एंड एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप पे अगर काम करना है तो द बेस्ट कंपनी दैट द कंट्री कैन प्रोवाइड वाज टाटा. So I was very happy to work with Tata Group to work on the best possible solution for the country.
Uh, that's pretty unique again, I would say, of you of deciding a company so mainly based on values and what their mission and goal is. Because I think even I think you would agree with when we consider a job, mostly people they either look at the role, how the team matches them, or the salary, of course. But it's really this case of hey, the values of company really match what I want to do. So I find this being really unique. I would say that hey, when you wake up every day, I know things can get pretty rough, even in any job, be it entrepreneur or otherwise. And when you know that it matches your values, that might be an additional push to uh, what the
So that
going
way
ways
it
that you
it is very easy for me to work round the clock for it because it
yeah
never feels
exactly.
like a additional burden कि, otherwise when I sort of meet my friends who are from the corporate background they are always looking कि भाई Saturday कब आएगा. So that ways I don't have that kind of pressure कि Saturday कब आने वाला है. I can work pretty much around the clock because I enjoy it, to be very honest. As simple as that. And when I say I enjoy it, so there are very satisfying parts of my job when I am actually interacting with the upcoming entrepreneurs, listening to their ideas, how their journey so far has been. And when you listen to people from the marginalized background, it is even more inspiring. For example, this one particular
Right.
lady, she has been making pots since she was 4 year old. वो पर्टिकुलर जो हमारी पॉटरी वाली जो कम्युनिटी होती है, कास्ट होती है, उससे आती थी. शी गॉट मैरिड इनटू द पॉटरी वाला कास्ट कम्युनिटी इटसेल्फ. नाउ शी वांट्स टू सेट अप एन एंटायर बिजनेस अराउंड मेकिंग यूनिक पॉट्स. तो उसको सिर्फ पॉट्स का पूरा इंफॉर्मेशन था. शी सेड दैट आई एम गोइंग टू टेक दिस एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम. वॉट एवर आई लर्न आउट ऑफ इट, आई विल ट्राई टू इम्प्लीमेंट इट आफ्टर गेटिंग अनदर सेट ऑफ स्किलिंग फ्रॉम सम लेवल ऑफ फैशन इंस्टीट्यूट. मेरे को उसके अंदर डिजाइनर पॉट्स बनाना है. एंड दिस वुमन, शी
Wow.
इज फोर्थ फेल सॉर्ट ऑफ अ वुमन, चौथी फेल एक महिला जो यानी कि सोच रही है कि मुझे अपना बिजनेस आइडिया पूरा क्रिएट करना है और ऑन द लाइंस ऑफ द एंटायर लाइफ दैट शी हैड सो फार. शी हैड two kids, the younger one being some 2 year old, the elder one being some 7 year old. एंड नाउ शी हैज सेड कि अब मेरी जो सास है वो मेरे बच्चों का ख्याल रख सकती है. एंड शी हैज एग्रीड टू इट. नाउ आई वांट टू स्टार्ट माय ओन बिजनेस. तो इट इज वेरी इंस्पायरिंग कि
Wow, that,
किस एंगल से इंसान
yes.
सोचता है और कैसे आगे बढ़ने की कोशिश करता है. And I'll tell you one more story इसके lines पे. There was this one particular lady, she sort of came to the place where we had rented a space for the training. वहाँ पे वो जॉब अप्लाई करने के लिए आई थी. She saw the poster कि यहाँ पे entrepreneurship development program का कुछ ट्रेनिंग होने वाला है. So she sort of mentioned it during the interview itself कि सर वो बाहर पोस्टर लगा है, किस चीज़ का है. And decided to not take the job and appear for the entrepreneurship development program का training and started her own business. It's very inspiring. तो that keeps you going. Again, जो पहला क्वेश्चन था कि what keeps you going, so these anecdotes, these people, these
Yeah.
inspiration that you keep consistently getting, that keeps you going. Now we are sort of trying to work out a plan with जम्मू कश्मीर as well. वहाँ पे जो वैली के अंदर के जो यूथ वगैरह है, तो उनके साथ में काम करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं हम लोग.
Mm.
So, again, a new sort of a background wherein वी आर ट्राइंग टू वर्क अपॉन कि वो रेडिकलाइज थे एक टाइम पे, अभी वो मेन स्ट्रीम के अंदर आना चाहते हैं. दे वांट टू गेट अ लाइवलीहुड आउट ऑफ इट. वी आर
Right.
वर्किंग विद देम नाउ.
Yeah, all of these stories that you mentioned are like super interesting, especially like even with what we were trying to discuss in our second part, which was more around a deep dive discussion of how you see entrepreneurs today and what are the few things that you see are super important in them, and what do you think like an average Indian student who is not really aware of all of this can do to gain these skills. And I'm sure like even with the examples that you just stated, I think we can derive a lot out of this or out of them itself. But from your perspective, what would you say like are the few things that you see in entrepreneurs who are doing good right now?
Yes, totally. I mean, one thing that I feel is not going very well with the Indian entrepreneurship system is कि we are focusing a lot on the product का development. It gives a lot of mental kick to make our product better because we come from an sort of an engineering or academic sort of background into the
Right.
foray. We keep working a lot on our product कि
Yeah.
product को better से better करना है because that is something which is in our hand, but not really take it to the people and get some level of solutions or impact happening on ground, because that is the more difficult part of it. The social engineering part of the entire ecosystem is very difficult, and it is usually generally avoided in tougher times. कि जब टाइम्स टफ चल रहे हैं तब यू सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टार्ट वर्किंग ऑन योर प्रोडक्ट इटसेल्फ. इट्स अदर वे राउंड. यू शुड स्टार्ट रादर वर्किंग ऑन द इम्प्लीमेंटेशन पार्ट ऑफ इट कि वो और बेहतर तरीके से इम्प्लीमेंट कैसे हो सकता है, wherein you are able to open your ears and actually get that constructive criticism coming in. जब आप फीडबैक ले रहे होते हो, मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम इट इज इन अ फॉर्म ऑफ अ क्रिटिसिज्म, but how do you convert that criticism into a sort of a constructive feedback, loop it back into the system, and sort of grow yourself So that is very important aspect which is sort of missing right now, which I believe कि जो students है या फिर aspiring entrepreneurs है, they should so rather take care of it. The other portion which I was earlier mentioning कि get a good understanding of the problem. इसका एक बहुत अच्छा एग्जांपल ऐसा है कि इंडिया में एनीमिया बहुत ज़्यादा है. So one of uh, one of the friends from IIT Delhi, they developed a very good app around it कि anemia को कैसे वो track down कर सकते हैं, and how we can sort of build solutions which are decentralized and hyper local. उसके अराउंड उन्होंने पूरा ऐप तैयार किया, and they were to deploy it through the ASHA workers. ASHA workers are sort of volunteers for government
Hmm.
at rural level, जो जाके किसी एक पर्टिकुलर गांव में अगर यानी कि कहीं पे कोई प्रेग्नेंट औरत वगैरह है तो शी सॉर्ट ऑफ हेल्प्स हर लाइक एन एल्डरली सपोर्ट विद इन दैट विलेज इटसेल्फ. तो दे वांटेड टू इम्प्लीमेंट इट थ्रू द आशा वर्कर्स, बिकॉज मोस्टली एनीमिया हमारे देश में विमेन को ज़्यादा अफेक्ट करता है. सो एंड ऑलमोस्ट द percentage is crazy. मतलब on paper it is somewhere around 50 to 60%, but if you go actually on ground in rural areas, almost 70-80% of the women have anemia. So they developed this very good app. They started implementing it, but it was somehow not giving good response. Eventually, the entire funding also got consumed. Everything got uh, to a standstill, and that is when they had to go back to the आशा workers कि भाई जो actually implement कर रहे थे, and उनसे पूछा कि what went wrong. So, for an ASHA worker who is a full time mother, who is a full time housekeeper, who is an homemaker at large, उसके लिए ऑलरेडी एक आशा वर्कर का काम करना वॉज इट सेल्फ वेरी टायरसम, वेरी ओवरवेलमिंग. इट वॉज यू नो कि एक एडिशनल टास्क ऑलरेडी उसके पास में था. नाउ यू गिव अनदर टास्क विच वॉज एज daunting or more daunting as the ASHA worker वाला काम. So it was not possible to juggle with all the 3-4 responsibilities that she was having. If they had empathized with these workers who were going to implement the program in first place, so they would have sort of created another model which was much more lighter and sort of uh, less manual work in terms of the ASHA worker ka load. So this is where you need to empathize with each and every stakeholder of your implementation model. आपका ऐप कितना भी अच्छा हो, उसके अंदर सारे फीचर्स थे कि वो ऑफलाइन भी काम कर सकता था, ऑनलाइन भी काम कर सकता था, जीआईएस उसका बहुत स्ट्रांग था, सैटेलाइट सिस्टम के साथ में बहुत इजीली कनेक्ट हो जाता था, एवरीथिंग एवरीथिंग एवरीथिंग. But until and unless you are able to empathize with each and every stakeholder of your entire value chain, things will somewhere stop. So empathy is something that you need to develop at heart, and this is much more pertinent problem with engineers. We try to open
Hmm.
up, but still have very less chances of breaking that isolation when we are in that campus. कैंपस में एक आइसोलेटेड एनवायरनमेंट के अंदर इस टाइप का ब्रेकआउट लेना एंड सॉर्ट ऑफ टू गेट इनटू कोर डेप्थ ऑफ एम्पैथी इज समथिंग विच आई फील कि उसके लिए कंफर्ट जोन के बाहर जाके कुछ ना कुछ हाथ पैर मारने पड़ेंगे तभी वो कुछ कर पाएंगे.
One thing that I would also like you to throw some light on is the role of a mentor. Because let's say if I want to start something in a new domain and which I have less idea about, how do you find those people? How do you find that mentor who's willing to spend that time with you, spend that energy with you? So, and the role of the right mentor per se, because if you get stuck with wrong people, you kitna bhi acha idea hoga, you might not make it. So, can you little bit can you talk about that aspect as well?
I am very happy that you also mentioned about wrong mentors because I have seen a lot of wrong mentors in my life as well. These are people who will usually have a very sweet tongue and a very evil mind. तो ऐसे बहुत सारे लोग मिलते हैं who will try to sort of be vultures or scavengers for your good ideas and make money out of you. So that also happens at times. uh, I do believe कि जब आप चॉइस करते हो आपके मेंटर का, as in you try to find your mentor, you look at how good their work ethics are. क्योंकि वर्क एथिक्स वाइज you will always consciously or unconsciously try to copy them from your mentor. अगर उसका वर्क लाइफ
Hmm.
बैलेंस अच्छा नहीं है, so it will obviously creep into your life as well. I am not saying on a very absolute scale कि अच्छा क्या होता है और बुरा क्या होता है. For XYZ thing, something good can be bad for other XYZ thing. So that might also happen. जैसे there was a lot of debate when नारायण मूर्ति said कि 70 घंटे काम करना चाहिए वीक के अंदर. So I would say कि for XYZ thing
Right.
that might be the right way or approach to do it. कि उसके ऊपर 70 घंटे आप काम नहीं करोगे तो वो चीज़ सॉल्व नहीं होगी. ऑब्वियसली कि अगर वो इंसान ऑलरेडी पूरी तरीके से मेंटली एग्जॉस्ट हो रहा है काम करने के अंदर, तो उसके लिए 70 घंटे इज नॉट द सोल्यूशन. उसके लिए वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस इज द सोल्यूशन. आई मीन इफ वी एवर टू टॉक अबाउट 90% ऑफ द जनता हु इज वर्किंग इन इन्फोसिस, दे आर ओवर वर्कड एंड अंडरस्टाफ. तो उनके लिए 70 घंटे तो काम नहीं करने वाला. It is only for the selected few who
Right.
are sort of working on the lines of something which will actually require low mental exhaustion at large lengths कि वो 70 घंटे उसके ऊपर काम कर सके. राइट. एंड इफ आई वेयर टू से कि अगर यानी कि मेंटल एग्जॉशन बहुत ज्यादा है, एट इवन फॉर अ क्लेरिकल जॉब से, यानी कि अगर कहीं पे अगर वो लोकल का जो टिकट बेचने वाला भी होता है, उसका जो टेंशन है, सम रिसर्च पेपर से कि इट इज एज हाई एज अ वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 का सोल्जर. उसको उतना ज्यादा टेंशन रहता है उस काम के अंदर. वो सिर्फ टिकट दे रहा है, बट
Oh.
द प्रेशर, द टाइम स्पैन ऑफ इट, द एंटायर थिंग इट हैपन्स, उसके लिए 70 घंटे वो नहीं है. So an XYZ solution might work for you, XYZ solution might not work for you. It can be good for you, it can be bad for you, but you have to look at objectively. So a good mentor for me might not be a good mentor for you, and a bad mentor for me might not be bad mentor for you. उस चीज को understand करके try to evaluate it from a very subjective sort of a perspective कि मुझे exactly किस इंसान की जरूरत है, what exactly is required for this particular project. So it might differ from project to project, बट एट द कोर ऑफ इट यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि एक मेंटर का रोल ये होता है कि वो आपको डायरेक्शन प्रोवाइड करे टूवर्ड्स अचीविंग द लार्जर गोल. तो क्या मेरे और उसके लार्जर गोल के अंदर एक सिंक बैठ रहा है या नहीं बैठ रहा है? इफ देर इज नो सिंक बिटवीन अस, वो कुछ और सोच रहा है, मैं कुछ और सोच रहा हूँ विथ रिगार्ड्स टू द नॉन निगोशिएबल्स, देन अगेन इट इज अ बिग नो. You don't need to go with that particular mentor. Whenever it so happens ki you are stuck with a bad mentor, always have that heart to tell कि this is not working and get out of it, because it is again not something that you need to continue just for the heck of it. बहुत बार ऐसे भी होता है कि कि somebody is senior to you, you are stuck with them, you are not able to move out of it. That is not the equation in life at large. Try to be objective about it. If the mentor is not working well for you, get out of it, find another mentor. इसके अंदर मैंने बहुत अच्छे सक्सेस स्टोरीज देखे हैं जहाँ पे पीपल हैव चेंज देयर मेंटर्स एंड हैव बीन सुपर हैप्पी अबाउट इट. So if there is somebody who is listening, who is wanting to get into space of entrepreneurship, it is very clear you don't need to be stuck with one particular mentor. Find n number of mentors, get n number of perspectives, and always remember कि nothing is permanent. You can always change your mentor.
Right.
Thirdly, with regards to the entire life cycle of entrepreneurship itself, a mentor might be relevant at this particular point of time, might not be relevant at a later point of time. So you also need to keep on changing your mentors at different various point. उसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि you start stop respecting the previous mentor. वो respect अपनी जगह पे है, but you have to sort of transition into the next role and also have other sort of mentors. मतलब मैं ये नहीं बोलूंगा कि वो better mentor है क्योंकि वो बड़े stage के ऊपर काम कर रहा है. At every stage you require XYZ level of expertise, and that will help you grow at that particular point से अगले वाले point तक, कि वहां से फिर कोई और hand holding support provide करेगा. Then you need to transition to the next stage. As simple as that. It might happen so कि एक बहुत बड़ा जो स्केल का मेंटर है वो छोटे स्केल के ऊपर आपको कुछ हेल्प नहीं करता, because the nuances are different, the stories are different, the experiences are different. But it is also the other way around कि अगर आपको एक छोटे लेवल पे जो हेल्प कर पा रहा है वो आगे जाके हेल्प ना कर पाए. We need to be very vigilant about that aspect as well. Again, speaking on the lines of कि एक तो वो पार्ट हो गया कि कि good कि relevancy with regards to the time scale, relevancy with also regards to कि what is the value addition that you are looking for. With entrepreneurs who are from engineering background, who are good with their domain skills, you might require somebody who is from other sort of expertise to come in and help you with aspect which you are not good at. So that kind of complementing sort of a mindset is also very नेसेसरी कि नहीं तो हम लोग यूजुअली क्या करते हैं कि अ, हम लोग जिस फील्ड के अंदर के हैं उसी फील्ड का कोई एक बहुत बड़ा अगर कोई नाम है तो उसी को अपना मेंटर बना लेते हैं. So that might not be the best solution each and every time.
Hmm.
To have that kind of complementing set wherein you do understand that these are my weaknesses and this particular mentor can sort of fulfill to them.
Yeah, and I think as you said, on the both sides, like mentor choosing the mentee and mentee choosing the mentor, having this all clearly laid out and not just choosing for the sake of it might be really crucial and might define whether at the end it will be a success or not. With that being said, I think that brings us to an end of that section of a deep dive kind of discussion. But yeah, just to ease things out, we have this final section, which is I think favorite both for me and Shub, where we have these small questions for you and would love to hear a quick answer, whatever's on top of your mind. So just to start off with, who's your role model or an idol that you look up to right now?
I have four role models. Uh, Sachin Tendulkar, Swami Vivekanand, APJ Abdul Kalam and my father. Actually very funny that you asked. There is
Wow.
also a story behind it. I am not so sure कि मैं rapid fire के बीच में बता सकता हूँ या नहीं. I went to my own school. Again, this was as an alumni. This was as a chief guest for the annual day for my school. Where I mentioned कि life का जो ABCD है वो इस लाइन पे होना चाहिए कि आप A से एक्शन करो, which सचिन तेंदुलकर sort of symbolizes कि आप हार्ड वर्क से भगवान बन सकते हो. B is for being bold. Bold is where कि अब्दुल कलाम ने बोला था कि you dream big and finally achieve them. C was in terms of character building being the biggest trait from Swami Vivekanand's life. And D is for discipline, which I sort of got from my father. कि वो discipline will sort of take care of all the good and bad times equally.
Wow, I really love that. I love the ABCD analogy there.
Yeah.
I really love that. The second one is what is your most memorable memory of your social work?
Of my social work, I mean, there are so many memories. If I were to
Maybe
choose
just one
just
that
one,
you
The
love the
top,
most.
the topmost that's coming on to your top of your head right now.
I would say it was when I met a girl who was a cancer survivor patient. She was the lone breadwinner of her family. She was just 19-year-old. She had two younger sisters and a mother who was paralyzed to take care of, and no father. She survived cancer.
Oh my God.
She became an entrepreneur. She was running a cosmetic store in her village. And just, I mean, I am having goosebumps right now as I recall the story. उसका जो एंथू था, उसका जो
Wow.
पैशन था टुवर्ड्स मेकिंग अ लाइवलीहुड, आई मीन इट वाज जस्ट so contagious passion she had towards making a life, and so happy, such an happening face. Oh my god.
I love that you get to experience this very heartwarming kind of like stories and people. It's pretty inspiring for me as well. Even me, as you were telling about the extremeness of the situation, I was just and one after the other. I was like, oh my god. The third question is one thing that you would want to change in your current routine.
In my current routine, my routine right now is to get up early around 7 8, then go to gym, then take a shower in gym itself, then on to work, then work till late night, and then come back and sleep. So that is my routine as of now. Something that I would like to add this in this particular year as a bucket list item is to learn French. So that is my item to be added in
Hmm.
the entire routine right now. I'm yet to figure out how and when. Last year it was to complete a full marathon, which I was very happy to complete, and this year it is to learn French. French again, because I have heard that the literature is very rich in French language and otherwise. I did the same for Bangla. बांग्ला मैंने बस इसलिए पूरी सीख ली थी because I wanted to learn Rabindra Sahitya in its original form. So now it is French with regards to its literature, dramas, plays, and everything.
It's like we can have 10 more hours of conversation and we would still get something very
New.
interesting and very, very fascinating thing about you. Because learning language at this age is not easy. I read somewhere that your childhood is the best time when you can learn multiple languages, and as you grow older, it becomes really difficult. So,
वेरी ट्रू वेरी ट्रू आई मीन
yeah,
फॉर दैट
very
मैटर अभी भी
amazed
मैं जो
and
सीख रहा हूँ वो
fascinated.
मैं चिल्ड्रन बुक से ही सीख रहा हूँ. सो आई try to reach out to children stories of these languages, and that is where I start my learning at this age
Hmm.
also.
One final question from my end would be, I know you've shared this a lot in this episode, but if there was just one advice for anyone thinking to work on a startup, what would that be from your side?
Go to people first, interact with them, learn from them, be with them, work with them, live with them. 2-3 दिन उनके साथ में ही रहो, but get one with them.
Wow, I love that answer. So I have a few as well. I'll start with the most interesting place that you have visited, and you did talk about your traveling aspect. We couldn't explore that much, but let's keep something for the second part of this episode. But yeah, one of the most interesting places that you have been to.
um, Most interesting place in India would be Meghalaya. Meghalaya was a place where I had a lot of bucket list items to fulfill. मेरी bucket list पूरी तरीके से भरी हुई थी.
Okay.
I wanted to dye my hair. I dyed my hair blue. I wanted to be in the cleanest village of Asia जो मेघालय में है. I wanted to visit few waterfalls. I wanted to see the double root bridges. There, it was full of the bucket list items. मतलब हर दिन एक bucket list item पूरा fulfill हो रहा था. It was one of my favorite tours or trips. Again, it was very fulfilling in terms of reaching out to the marginalized people. मतलब वो मेघालय के इंटीरियर विलेजेस के अंदर जाके वहां पे उनके साथ में entrepreneurial एक्टिविटीज के ऊपर डिस्कस करना, अगेन इट वाज अ वेरी फुलफिलिंग एक्सपीरियंस. वेरिन
Yeah,
जब मतलब
I'm
दो
sure.
मेघालय के लोग बैठे हैं, एक गारो है एक खासी है, दीज आर टू डिफरेंट ट्राइब्स इन मेघालय इटसेल्फ. दोनों आके कुछ डिस्कस करना चाह रहे हैं, एंड वी आर सॉर्ट ऑफ मीडिएटिंग बिटवीन देम बिकॉज बोथ ऑफ देम डोंट अंडरस्टैंड ईच अदर्स लैंग्वेज. एंड सॉर्ट ऑफ वी आर सॉर्ट ऑफ मीडिएटिंग
Hmm.
बिटवीन देम कि वो थोड़ा समझने की उसकी कोशिश करे, थोड़ा इसका समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, एंड ट्राइंग टू ब्रिज सम कॉन्वर्सेशन बिटवीन देम.
Yeah. That's very fascinating. My next one is one thing that you would go back in time and tell 18-year-old younger Gaurav. What would that one thing be?
Everything is going to work out fine. I wouldn't change a thing if I were to do it all over again. So I would just go and just give some level of validation assurance to the younger Gaurav. सब कुछ ठीक होने वाला है.
Wow. Usually people have like a list of things that they would say कि अरे I did this wrong, so maybe if I knew this तो सही रहता. But I can feel that like आपकी जो energy है that is passing on to us, that sense of satisfaction and कि like I've done right things in life. It's not like कि बहुत ज़्यादा regrets है. तो that's very fascinating to me. And last one is slightly difficult, but I will still try. So you have to choose between one out of these two options. One is traveling forever to all the places that you love, or being founder of a unicorn startup in impact space.
Being founder of an startup in impact space. I am okay with not traveling a lot. I am okay with sort of deep diving into one particular geography itself. उसके अंदर ही deep dive करने के अंदर I would be fine with it. I am very fortunate to have got the experiences so far in India, across other countries as well. But if I were to say in terms of really creating an impact, you need to go deeper, not wider.
Right.
Yeah, I think this brings us to the end of the entire podcast. This was one of a very unique kind of experiences that we had while shooting a podcast where we were able to drill down on wide variety of stories. It was like a whole spectrum, starting from college, then
Yeah.
your switch to IIT Indore, and then Swaaha, Vivekanand Youth Initiative, and then now Tata STRIVE. I think one thing that I'm going to take back from this episode will be the empathy part of how whatever problem we solve, we as engineers or even like non-engineers need to have that really core value tied to empathy to whatever we are solving, because I think in the tough times that's what might just give us the additional push that's needed. And yeah, I think our audience would, I'm sure they would love this podcast, because right now I see a lot of people back at IIT Indore as well who are dwelling into the space of entrepreneurship a lot more than before, and this will be a really good uh, dimension for them as well, that they're not just software startups, they're not just like SaaS tools that you need to build. They're all plethora of problems in the world which need your attention right now, and some of them might not be very flashy or fancy, but at the core they are a problem and need to be solved. Sure, what would your
I
takeaway
agree.
from this episode be?
I think, as you talked about in the end, the depth part, because right now we are at an age where people say that, you need to explore everything. If you are, let's say, doing an MBA as I am right now, people just say, do everything, something of everything. But the other part is, at least for something, you have to do everything, which is going really deep to a level that you really understand every nitty gritty of a problem or a domain. And then looking if you can create some impact, because I know, like, in a capitalistic environment, we all want to earn a lot of money. We all want to live the best of their lives. But I think listening to Gaurav's journey, I'm really intrigued as to these are also the kind of domains that you can work on. And these are also very satisfying. It's not like he's unhappy doing this. And so there's not just one singular way of how people look at success. There are a lot of things that you need to define what success is for you and what you really care about. So I am really, really moved by how well spoken you are and how you had very deep and, I would say, impactful answers to some of these questions. And I hope this quality of content would help a lot of people. And that really is the motive of why Nebat and I are trying to do this. So
Yes.
thanks a lot for your time.
So I was just saying, just to add on one small thing, I saw how while you were saying different things, we actually have a shared document and we started adding notes for ourselves. Like this were like our personal notes that we were taking to remember even after this episode. And I'm sure we'll just look back to this as we progress in our careers of the things that you just mentioned.
I agree. I agree. I mean, for anyone who is going to watch this and wanting to get into development or entrepreneurship or any sort of sectors that I have delved into, I'll be really happy to sort of give them an helping hand. Very happy to help them out.